Well, this is Thabo Bester, a convicted murderer and serial rapist who set himself on fire in solitary confinement in May 2022. He was pronounced dead, and everyone concluded that he committed suicide by self-immolation. However, in reality, everything was not as it seemed at first glance. In 2011, Bester was nicknamed the Facebook Rapist. He used many pseudonyms when looking for victims on social media. Thabo would tell women he was a model scout, invite them to meetings, and then rob, rape, and even kill them. When justice caught up with him, he tried to escape responsibility. Was he tortured by his conscience? It is worthwhile to understand this story from the very beginning. A woman named Maria Mabasso once told me how in the 80s she was a victim of rape, which resulted in the birth of her son, Thabo Bester. The mother gave the boy to her grandmother to raise, and eventually stopped communicating with both her son and mother. Thabo grew up in Johannesburg, the largest city in South Africa. He did not know his mother, and his grandmother abused alcohol. Thabo said that he was abused by a friend of his grandmother's, which led to serious injuries. He said that because of his unbearable life, he ran away from home and ended up on the streets, where he entered the criminal world. However, people who knew Bester claimed that this was all a lie. Neighbors assured him that Thabo grew up in normal conditions. The Ferreira family, in which his grandparents worked, testified that his grandmother did not have a lover, but lived with his grandfather Abel, and even drank alcohol only occasionally. Despite all this, Thabo plunged into the criminal world. He was first arrested at the age of 17 for stealing, but because of his young age, the judge released him after 6 months. In 2009, he was arrested again for fraud, but released on parole. After being released, Bester started new scams. He created fake Facebook profiles, posed as a model scout, promised women careers, and lured them to meetings where he robbed and raped them. His crimes were not limited to robbery and violence. Bester also ran large-scale scams, using film crews for photo shoots that he robbed, or organizing pseudo-castings where he robbed models. The police were unable to get on his trail for a long time, as he was constantly changing his names and locations. In January 2011, Bester met 26-year-old Nomfundo Tihula. He invited her to Cape Town for a vacation, but their trip ended in tragedy. One night, after an argument, Bester attacked the girl with a knife. He demanded her phone and laptop, and when she refused, he stabbed her to death. Finally, he tied her hands, forced her to give him the password to the laptop, and then left her in the room and fled. Only in the evening did the hotel staff find the girl's body. Finally, in October 2011, the police managed to capture Bester, although he managed to avoid punishment for some of the crimes. Known for his crimes and scams, Thabo Bester continued his criminal activities even behind bars. He is known to have started fraud while still in prison, posing as a relative of South African millionaire Patrice Motsheba. Bester created a fake social media page where he presented himself as a businessman running an international media company. Thanks to this deception, he managed to convince one of the women to create a company called 21st Century Media, which was allegedly connected to international media giants. In June 2018, Bester organized a lavish event at the Hilton Hotel in Johannesburg, where he even managed to create the illusion that he was running the company. The event attracted the attention of high society, where the people in attendance even received a virtual greeting from Bester via video link, even though he was actually in prison. Only a few months later, this deception was revealed. However, the scam with the charity event brought even more trouble. Bester and his front company promised the presence of celebrities such as Halle Berry and Taraji Henson. When the actors said they had nothing to do with the event, all tickets were canceled and the scam was exposed. In May 2022, a tragic and strange event occurred. A fire broke out in one of the cells of the prison where Bester was being held. When the fire was extinguished, it turned out that the prisoner had died, but his body was badly damaged. Initially, suicide was suspected, but later an investigation showed that Bester died of a head injury, and the case was reclassified as murder. Soon it became known that Bester and his so-called wife, Nandifa Magudumana, had actually organized a fake death to escape from prison. This was confirmed when journalists discovered photos of the couple vacationing together in a supermarket in Johannesburg. This discovery triggered a new wave of investigations, and it turned out that Bester and Magudumana had used fake passports to escape. As a result, the police found Bester in Tanzania, where he and his partner were trying to set up a new construction company with forged documents. After their arrest, it became known that one of the world's most notorious criminals had used corruption among prison officials to escape. It's a truly shocking story, telling of the dangerous escape of Thabo Bester, one of South Africa's most talked about criminals. Here's how it all happened. Nandifa Magudumana visited the local morgue 3 times, posing as a relative of the recently deceased to collect the bodies for burial. The first 2 times, her deception was successful. But for the 3rd corpse, she decided to use the body of a man named Katlego Berenga. He was an acquaintance of one of the prison staff who was involved in Bester's escape. Bereng died of his injuries after collapsing in the street, and his body was taken to the morgue. Nandifa, together with her father, picked him up from there on April 29th. The body was taken to the prison, where Bester was held in solitary confinement. On May 2nd, one of the prison staff brought him to Bester's cell, and the next day, during a fire, the guard did not notice the smoke coming from the cell. Meanwhile, Bester dressed in a guard's uniform and escaped from the prison, leaving the country with Magudumana. Meanwhile, the video surveillance was turned off and the cameras were redirected so that the criminal's exit from the prison was not visible. Bester tried to leave a trail of fake threats to manipulate the environment and choose threatening tactics through audio recordings. These recordings were distributed online, but later many realized that this was only part of his plan. The details of the investigation were even more shocking. No active measures were taken to find Bester until 2023, although the authorities knew about his escape in October 2022. In total, more than 12 people were involved in the case, but many were released after posting bail. Now, only 3 people remain in custody: Thabo Bester, his partner Nandifa Magudumana, and Zanda Moyo, who helped steal the body. The investigation process is ongoing, but despite all his manipulations, he will probably have to answer for his crimes. Justice is still waiting for his verdict.